when the world has already ended and you have the head of Strategic Command in his airborne command post coordinating the launch of missiles to kill even millions of more people, hundreds of millions of more people, even though soon he's going to run out of fuel and there's no place to land and he's going to die too. It's on full automatic. The world ends automatically. So anybody out there thinking, well, no rational person would let this happen. It's on full automatic. And all you have to do is cross that initial threshold. So for all you idiots out there talking about let's give the Ukrainians the weapons so they can strike targets deep inside Russia, that's the initial threshold.
Moving on, as the icy grip of the winter tightens on Eastern Europe, Ukraine finds itself in an increasingly perilous position. Russian forces are advancing relentlessly, employing innovative tactics that have left Ukrainian defenders reeling.
Russian officials are increasingly confident that Ukraine is nearing a breaking point as Kyiv struggles to sustain its war effort amid mounting manpower shortages. Major General Apti Alaudinov, commander of the Akhmat Special Forces, noted that Ukraine's depleted mobilization resources are pushing the country into internal turmoil, unable to provide enough soldiers to withstand the Russian offensive.
President Vladimir Putin has warned the West that Russia could use nuclear weapons if it was struck with conventional missiles. The Russian leader presented changes to Russia's nuclear doctrine at a meeting of the country's Security Council. Putin said a nuclear power supporting an attack on Russia would now be considered a joint aggressor. The change in doctrine comes after Putin's warnings to the U.S. and other NATO allies that allowing Ukraine to use Western long-range weapons to hit Russian territory would mean that Russia and NATO are at war.
Well, let me make it as clear as possible. Uladar is a urban area in Zaporizhia. Zaporizhia is Russia. So ask me that question again, how important is it to Russia? Every inch of Russian soil is important to Russia. Russia's not playing the game on other people's territories right now. I mean, Uladar had a certain strategic relevance. The Ukrainians had fortified it. It was the anchor of the Ukrainian defenses. It had frustrated Russia for 2 years now. That had been repeatedly trying to take it. So from a military standpoint, Russia finally took what had been one of its objectives, an anchor to the Ukrainian defenses in Zaporizhia, which will unhinge that line and compel the Ukrainians to fall back and dig in another line. Will there be a second Uladar? I don't know. But I don't think, sometimes we lose sight of the fact that Russia's not stopping this war till every inch of Russian territory has been returned to Russia. And all of Zaporizhia is considered by Russia to be Russian. All of Donetsk, all of Lugansk, all of Kherson, including the right bank. So from the Russian perspective right now, as stated, their goals and objectives are to regain control of all the territory that is legally Russian. And for all the people that are talking about, well, they're going to draw a new line and freeze it where it is, constitutionally, that's sort of impossible to do because that would require the Russians to say, we're giving up Russian soil. Now, people say, well, you've never really occupied it other than the right bank and maybe some places in Donetsk that they had and then they withdrew, but I think they've captured them again. It doesn't matter. The oblast, the region of Zaporizhia, is Russia from a Russian perspective, constitutionally. All of it belongs to Russia, every square inch. And Russia, I don't see any mechanism where Russia, short of being defeated, stops the conflict. So no matter what happens, those territories will all be returned to Russia, which means Ukrainians are going to have to leave. Now, if Ukrainians are fortunate enough, then the Russians won't make a demand on additional territories. Odessa, Kharkov, Sumy, Dnipropetrovsk, Mykolaiv. Russia has a legitimate claim on all of these because all of them have been used to launch attacks against Russian territory. We'll see what happens, but understand that Russia will do whatever it takes to regain control of every inch of Russian territory. And the only way to stop Russia from doing that is to defeat Russia. And right now, I don't see Russia being defeated on the battlefield. Historically, yes. They consider Odessa, Mykolaiv, Kharkov, Sumy. These are Russian cities with significant Russian-speaking populations. Um, Legally, Russia hasn't made a claim on these cities at all. You've not seen Russia say anything other than the territories that are Russia belong to Russia, and we will occupy them. There may be, some modalities in a post-conflict reality that call for demilitarization of these territories, etc. But as of yet, Russia has not made a claim on these territories. Could that change? Absolutely. I would say that, depending on what the final outcome is, if you get a Ukraine that totally capitulates, where Russia is in total control of the political entity, then I don't see the need to transfer Odessa to Russian control. But if the conflict ends with a Ukraine that has a modicum of independence in terms of governance, Russia can never again allow Ukraine to be Ukraine to control Odessa because of the threat Odessa poses on Crimea. The same thing with Sumy and Kharkov. These two districts have forfeited their right to have independence because Ukraine has used them to launch attacks into Kursk and into Belgorod. That's unforgivable from the Russian standpoint. And again, for all the people out there saying, tough luck, Russia, just put it, again, imagine the United States and imagine this happening to us, and then imagine what we would do, and then stop being hypocritical. Russia's going to do what Russia needs to do to protect Russian interests. And they're sort of not in the mood to negotiate anymore. I get a chuckle when I hear, former Secretary General, Stoltenberg and the new one, Rutte, and everybody else, talking about this, that, and the other thing. They don't count. I mean, you think Russia cares? Russia doesn't care about them anymore. Doesn't pay attention. It's just talk. Russia's in the business of winning this war, which means whatever you want to bring to Ukraine, Russia will consume, eat, spit out, chew out, kill, destroy, and keep moving. That's the reality. I think Russia made that point as clear as possible, that if you do that, there will be consequences, and these consequences will be dire. And then if people want to know what dire means, go buy Annie Jacobson's book, Nuclear War: A Scenario, and read it, and you'll understand how in 72 minutes the entire world ends. That's the consequences, guys. My wife always tells me, don't read the comments. Don't read the comments. For all you stupid people out there, and I call you stupid, and I'd call it to you in your face, because this gets insulting after it, not me personally, but humanity. All the things you're advocating for will inevitably lead to the destruction of the entire world. Now, you're sitting there playing stupid troll games. That's fine. You can do that. Free speech. Yay. Good job. But understand the consequences of what you're talking about. And this is where the rest of you have to get pissed off, because you're literally talking about killing you. The interesting thing about Annie Jacobson's book, I just bought it this last weekend and spent all day Sunday reading it back and forth twice, is that while it's a work of fiction, it's derived from interviews she had with the guys who will do all the jobs that are mentioned in the book. So she didn't make anything up. It's there, how things would happen, decisions that would have to be made, etc. And the frustrating thing is how at some point in time, the nuclear employment plan, the nuclear posture goes on full automatic, and rational thought no longer applies. I mean, when you have, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in the Pentagon, knowing the nuclear weapon's going to hit him and he's going to be dead in 36 seconds, still pretending as he was in command, issuing orders. When the world has already ended and you have the head of Strategic Command in his airborne command post coordinating the launch of missiles to kill even millions of more people, hundreds of millions of more people, even though soon he's going to run out of fuel and there's no place to land and he's going to die too. It's on full automatic. The world ends automatically. So anybody out there thinking, well, no rational person would let this happen. It's on full automatic. And all you have to do is cross that initial threshold. So for all you idiots out there talking about let's give the Ukrainians the weapons so they can strike targets deep inside Russia, that's the initial threshold. All right? And everybody else needs to act accordingly. So, these trolls, pound sand, go to hell, die. I don't care. But stop being stupid, because you're literally saying you want to commit suicide. And that's your business if all you want to do is take yourself out. But the policies that you're promulgating are policies that will lead to the deaths of humanity. Because once you have a war on the scope and scale of a general nuclear exchange between the United States and Russia, which, by the way, is automatic once any initial threshold has been crossed. That's the interesting thing. It doesn't matter. The thing that Annie Jacobson brings up, you say, well, if the United States goes to a nuclear war with North Korea, it doesn't matter. If we fire 150 Minuteman III to North Korea, how do they get there? All you rocket scientists. They have to overfly Russian soil. And now the Russians are looking at 150 missiles coming in and going, that could also be a decapitating strike against all our stuff. Let's say the Russians don't fire, but now these missiles hit inside North Korea and the radioactive fallout goes into Vladivostok and kills 4 million people. I think the Russians just take that and go, oh, that's okay. What happens when the Chinese, when the radiation hits North Korean sites, goes across to China and kills 20 million people? Chinese are going to go, oh, that's okay too? There's no limiting this stuff. It's insane. It's insane. Once it starts, you can't fire. The Trident missiles are the most destabilizing missile in our arsenal, because the second they're launched at any target, North Korea or anywhere, the people who are potential nuclear adversaries of the United States have to assume that this is a preemptive decapitation strike against them, whether you're China or Russia. And since they operate on what's called launch on detect, which we have, by the way, too, the second you detect a launch that has a probability of a nuclear strike on your soil, you must launch everything, because you can't afford to leave anything in the ground. So everything gets launched. Yeah, I got it, you pro-Ukrainian trolls out there. Pound sand. Kiss my ass. I don't care. But stop. I just want everybody else to realize how stupid this line of thinking is. You don't have to agree with me on anything. You can say, Scott, you're wrong on Ukraine. Scott, you're wrong on Iran. I ain't wrong on nuclear war, guys. And I'm not willing to gamble to be proven wrong. All right? Having Ukraine at this stage in the conflict, or at any stage in the conflict, seek to turn things around by firing long-range missiles, foreign-made, into Russian soil, isn't going to change the outcome of the war in Ukraine, but it could very well determine the fate of all humanity.